Hi, I'm Jim Zeibeck, historian at the Southwest Florida Military Museum. I'd like to welcome you to our tour of the museum. I'm going to hit some of the highlight spots in our display areas. And we're kind of unique as a museum because we cover everything in American history virtually from the earliest wars, the Revolution, American Revolution, all the way to modern wars, the Desert Wars and the wars for our current desert wars. So I'd just like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to introduce you to some of the areas that we have highlighted here in our virtual tour. The first spot, the first stop we have in our museum is the Revolutionary period. And we have in stop number one a piece of George Washington's hair. And you might be able to zoom in on that and see there's a red square. And believe me, there is a strand of George Washington's hair in that small square. So that's one of the highlights of the first stop, the Revolutionary period. We also have in our display cases beneath that some of the relics of the war. We have some canteens, two examples of Revolutionary War canteens. One is a metal one, and one is a wooden one, which is kind of shaped like a half barrel. And the metal one, we feel that that might have been used by cavalry in the Revolution because it's banged up pretty good. We do have some really great documents also in this display case. One is a colonial document from South Carolina, and that's one of our earliest ones that is signed by King George. And also we have a document. It's a ship's ledger, actually, and it has the signature of John Hancock on the bottom of it. So that's really a rare document. John Hancock, of course, was one of the early benefactors and actually did a lot of the financing of our war effort as colonial states got together to fight the British. One of our displays in relics on the top shelf also shows a number of dug relics, and that's from a New Jersey battlefield, and we had that donated to our museum very early in our history, so that was one of our earliest displays that were donated. We also have in this section, it's called the Liberty Tree knife. And what that was, it's a knife, it's a collector's knife, and it was made from the stock, the handle was actually made from a Liberty tree. Now, the last remaining Liberty tree was actually blown down in Hurricane Floyd, and that was in Annapolis. That's where the Liberty tree was, the last remaining one was destroyed by the hurricane. And from that remaining wood, they made the handles for these collector's knives. So the Liberty trees were actually found in the colonies, and they were used by the colonists to make plans against the British. The British controlled the towns, of course, and therefore the people, the colonials, were actually making their plans underneath these Liberty trees to fight the British. We have some mannequins represented here, and of course we have Paul Revere on the right side, who was one of the made the announcement, the famous announcement that the British were coming in the Boston area. And then we have, of course, Betsy Ross, who legend says sewed our first American flag, the colonial flag. We have some artwork on the walls here. One of the earliest pieces that we have regarding our local history in Florida is a framed piece that includes some trade beads. And those beads were actually found in a site not too far from our present museum in Cape Coral. And it was called the Harney Point Massacre, and it was an outpost that was located just off the Caloosahatchee River, and that was manned by a group of soldiers in the 1830s, and they were attacked by some Indians native to the area, and that outpost was attacked, and the Indian that led that attack was his American name was Billy Bowlegs. So we have that framed up. The beads, like I said, were found at the site, and then we have pictures of both General Harney, who was head of that outpost, and also Billy Bowlegs, the Indian who led that attack. So that's one of our earliest pieces that have to do with local history. One of our other pieces here is a document that was signed by Colonel William Worth, and this was during the Seminoles Wars. So we have, it's actually a muster roll, and Colonel Worth was the namesake for Fort Worth in Texas. We had our earliest Indian tribes located in this area were first of all